Hi, my name is Courtney, and I'm very passionate about helping women with invisible illnesses realize that you can still lead a pretty healthy and active lifestyle. It's just not going to be the one that you had envisioned for yourself, but what else are you going to do about it? You can't just sit there and feel sorry for yourself. It's not a winning strategy. Um, I have a dear friend who we talk. We have conversations that I can't have with most people because I can get really depressed. I Part of my health issues come with a lot of anxiety, and that it's easy to fall down that slope into depression. But my poor friend is really struggling with it right now, and so this I don't know, this topic just kind of popped into my heart. So let's talk about 7 things you need to remember when you feel that you're not good enough. This information is from tinybuddha.com. First thing, this is not from them, this is from me. Good enough for who? Whose standards are you trying to live up to and why? The only standards, and look, I know this isn't really easy, especially if you're somebody who struggles with this stuff, but the only standards you need to care about are your own. You need to establish your values and your priorities and make sure you're living up to those standards. And frankly, everybody else can just, I was going to say something rude. They can just go take a hike. The exercise will be good for me. It'll give them endorphins and maybe they won't be so bitchy. But let's get into this. Number 1, you got to stop comparing yourself to other people. You have to. Look, you don't know. You have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. All we know about other people is what they've chosen to share with us. And a lot of times the people that we're choosing to compare ourselves to, it's somebody famous, and you're definitely not seeing the reality there. You're just not. If you just have to compare yourself to somebody else, you should compare yourself to people who are less fortunate than you. Not so that you can be all high and mighty and, oh, aren't I wonderful? But so you can remember how fortunate you are and you can remember to be grateful for the things that you have. You need to also remember whoever you're comparing yourself to, guess what? They do the same thing. It's To a large degree, it's just part of the human experience. So while you're looking at them and thinking, "Oh, I wish I had that," they're looking at somebody else and thinking the same thing. So don't do this to yourself. Don't envy people. Envy comes from compare. "Oh, I wish I had that." Then you know what? Then do something about it. Do something about it. But don't envy people, because at the end of the day, whoever you're doing that to, they're just another human being. They have the same, we all have basically the same essential struggles and challenges. So we all need to, and I'm including myself in this. We all need to quit being so damn judgmental. Number 2 thing you need to remember is that inner voice lies to you. It's highly exaggerated. It's, I don't know about you, but for me, it's almost comically critical. I was going to tell you guys a story, but honestly, it is so bad that unless you know me really, really well, you ain't going to hear it, because I went down the weirdest rabbit hole with this kind of thinking the other day. And I'm not even going to tell you because it was that bad. But you got to remember, a thought, it's just a thought. It doesn't make it true. I mean, come on, we have all kinds of random weird crap that goes across our mind. It doesn't mean it's true. Just because you have the thought doesn't mean you need to believe it. Just observe it. Well, okay, that was weird. Where the hell did that come from? And let it go. By the way, I know you guys have heard, I think it's so weird that there are people who don't have an inner monologue. I can't even grasp that concept. All I can think is, "God, that must be so freaking peaceful." I'm really kind of envious, but I'm also not really envious because I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. Anyway, number 4, or excuse me, number 3, that truly we're so harsh on ourselves, but you know what? There's so much more right with you than there is wrong with you. You need to stop focusing on your perceived, I do speak English, on your perceived flaws. And I say perceived because Okay, maybe it's an actual flaw, but I can guarantee you other people see it as like this much of your personality, whereas your inner critic is like, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal. It's not. It's very, I shall not say it's not. Maybe you're just really a complete jackass. I don't know. But for most of us, it's not. It's self perceived flaws. Why don't we focus on our good qualities? Why don't you focus on your good traits? If you don't think you have any, okay, if you don't think you have any, honestly, that's very sad. Ask the people around you. My one friend who's very depressed, I doubt that he's going to watch this, but you know what? He's very smart, he's wickedly funny, and he's incredibly kind. And I guarantee you he doesn't see those qualities in himself. So, if you're struggling, ask somebody, ask a friend, "Hey, what, I'm struggling here. I need something to build from. Tell me what you like about me." Although as I'm saying that, there's a little voice in my head saying, "Courtney, men are not going to have those conversations." I hope you guys do, because that would be really sad if you didn't. But I also know it's a very different ballgame for men. Anyway, whether you choose to focus on your flaws or your good qualities, it's up to you because it is a choice. And it's both that simple and that complicated. Number 4, you need to offer yourself grace, especially when you feel undeserving of it, because that's when you need it the most. And when you're down in the dumps, when you're dealing with anger or depression or anxiety, even grief, it's hard to hear. I shouldn't say hear, sorry. It's hard to accept a little bit of grace. It really is, but you need to. You need to allow the people around you, the people who love you, you need to allow them to lift you up, and you need to do it without second guessing their motives, because that's where I'm like, why are you being so nice to me? Um, there's actually kind of a funny story about that. I'm not gonna do it, because I'll get way off on a rabbit trail. No, I'm gonna do it. When I started going to this church in Texas, my friend's mom asked me, "Well, what do you think?" And I was like, I don't know." I said, "Obviously, I'm still going, but I don't know." And she's, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, they're all too nice to me." And she's like, "What?" I said, "They're too nice." And all I can think is, what the hell is in this for you people? And she was really shocked. And she said, "Courtney, you are such a kind, loving person. I cannot believe those words came out of your mouth." But it is hard for me to accept that from other people. It was a situation that did give me anxiety because I didn't expect, when I pulled into the parking lot the first time, I didn't expect a big congregation. I mean, it's not a mega church, but it was big enough to give me a panic attack. I had to pray in the parking lot, "Dear Lord, this is not what I had in mind." But anyway, sorry, back to it. To offer yourself grace, prayer is a really good way to do that, because I guess if you're not a Christian, I don't know if it's going to be as meaningful to you. But when I get really stressed, when I get really depressed, I pray and I remember that, you know what? Jesus died for me. I got this. If he can offer me grace, why in the hell can I not offer myself some grace? Number 5, when you feel like you're not enough, you need to learn to accept yourself for who you are right here and right now. That doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, because there's always room for improvement. But you know what? You're doing something right. You've made it this far, right? So you're doing something right. Excuse me. You cannot grow from a negative self-perception. You cannot grow without making some peace with yourself. You've got to have a solid positive foundation to build from. And I'm not trying to be pushy, but I'm telling you, faith has made a tremendous difference in my life. Maybe that's not it for you, but I highly recommend you find something that gives you that kind of inner peace. Um, you need to remember, number 6, sorry, my notes are really crappy. I'm trying to get better at extemporaneous speaking, and sometimes my notes are just not as good as they should be. Number 6, you need to remember you've got to focus on how far you've come instead of how far you still have to go. Now, A good example of this, I hate talking about this, I'll be really frank, is my weight. In large part due to my health issues, but also for a multitude of other reasons, including the fact that I just really like food. I have a weight problem, and I have for quite some time. Now, for my heaviest, I've lost 50 pounds. That's remarkable. Excuse me. I should be really proud of that. But you know what? I get very, because with my health issues, it is so difficult for me to lose weight. And I get really stuck in the gosh damn it, I still have so far to go. But you know what? I'm 50 pounds closer. That's significant. And by the way, if you want to sit there and sneer about fat people being lazy, go strap a 50-pound bag of dog food to your back and go through your day. I'm just saying, it's not just being lazy. Honestly, I'm going to get off in the weeds, but there's so much more that goes into weight than just calories. There's a lot of emotional and mental BS that goes along with it, at least for most of the women that I've talked to. Anyway, sorry. Squirrel. You need to focus on how far you've come. It needs to be about progress, not perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. But you know what? Compound interest. Just take those baby steps and celebrate those baby steps. Hey, you know what? Today I tracked my macros. Today I ate all my vegetables. Today I drank whatever it is for you. But when you get those small goals, when you reach them, make sure that you give yourself a pat on the back at the end of the day, because you did do something good and you are moving in the right direction. Excuse me. You need to remember you're going to stumble. It's normal. That's part of life. Just accept it, pick yourself up, pull yourself together, and move on. Don't get hung up on it, because when you do, you're just making yourself miserable. Finally, number 7 thing you need to remember when you feel that you're not enough. Self-criticism is never going to lead you to success. It's never going to take you anywhere positive. You cannot hate yourself into a version of you that you want to be. It's not possible. You need to be kind to yourself. You need to read a mantra that I stole years ago from a former mentor. And it's really simple. But when your brain starts running down that rabbit hole, and if you do this to yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just tell yourself very firmly that's not true. Because logically, you know that's not true. That voice in your head is so wildly exaggerated, and just you can't do that to yourself. You need to counter your irrational thoughts with rational ones. I know somebody who gets very dramatic. Well, I never do anything right. Really? Never anything? Well, you learn to walk, you learn to talk, you learn how to drive a car, you learn how to run a computer, you learn how to hold down a job. At my age, you've probably learned how to, most people have learned how to raise kids. Well, to varying degrees of success. I guess that wasn't a good example, but you get my point. You do a lot more things right than you give yourself credit for. And it may not be a bad idea to get out a pen and paper. I love pens and papers. Lots of good things come when you take a pen to paper. Get out a pen and paper and just make a list of positive qualities, things that you like about yourself. I did I was challenged once to come up with 100 different things that I liked about my personality. And I gotta say, it was harder. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh, I got this. I got this. I did not have this. It took me days. But I was also trying to be really careful not to have redundancies. And 100 with no redundancies was, I thought, difficult. Anyway, I need to go grab something to eat and get back to work. My new job is just, it's going so well. I really like the women that I'm working with. I'm not part of the group yet, but I don't feel like a complete outsider. They've been very warm and welcoming, and it's just such a cool opportunity. And I'm really, truly grateful for that. Anyway,